As we talk about observing, asking questions, and researching, that brings us to the dreaded, at least by me, L word, labs. But labs, demonstrations, and explorations are just an extension of the activities we've been talking about. If labs are your thing, and you enjoy everything about them, then fast forward through this next section. However, if you are like me, even a little bit, for whatever reason, then you'll want to know about my 4 solutions for dealing with science labs. Solution number 1, recognize that you do not have to do labs. Why do we assume that experiments or investigations or observations must be part of any science study? Why can't we just read about scientific method? After all, at the introductory level, we're not really investigating anything where the results are not known. Why can't we just look at pictures? With so many resources at our disposal, why can't we just rely on the internet or videos? The bottom line is that we can. Just realizing this by itself can be very freeing. I have a friend who homeschooled 5 children and never did a single experiment at home. And what do you know? 3 of those 5 children went into science-related fields at the college level. Go figure. Although state requirements vary, labs are typically only required at the high school level, and sometimes not even then. That leaves many, many years when you do not have to do experiments. Now, my friend's children did do high school labs. We'll talk about her approach to that later. First of all, you can do your sciences reading courses. Bob Jones or Houghton Mifflin Science or the Apologia Elementary Science series are good, solid texts that you can use as reading text and continue reading right through the experiments and activities. It's not the way the courses are designed, but they do provide solid information. When children are very young, you can use the nature readers or a Charlotte Mason style of nature study, like those found in Pocketful of Pine Cones. Another idea for early elementary children is to approach science as an extension of their reading practice. There are wonderful series, like the Let's Read and Find Out series, that are grade-level readers on science topics. You can also take a literature approach to science, either the History of Science course from Beautiful Feet, or the Story of Science by Joy Haycom, or your own collection of biographies and living books can provide an interesting historical perspective to science. Even high school level courses can be approached this way. Some high school science curricula, like the courses from Paradigm Accelerated, require very few experiments and are designed to be mostly reading courses. Others, like Life Packs and Switched on Schoolhouse, Science Shepherd, and Apologia, have labs and or lecture videos to supplement the courses, while others, like Biology 101 and Chemistry 101, are essentially a video course plus outside reading. The first solution, then, is to recognize that you do not have to do science experiments in order to study science. However, that means that you're going to be missing out on some exciting life experiences. Most science courses are designed to include experiments. So why? What are the reasons for doing hands-on science labs? Sometimes experiments are used to introduce a lesson or to teach and demonstrate a concept. Sometimes experiments provide clarification of a concept. For some students, reading and hearing the information is just not enough. They need a visual. Sometimes experiments are used to grab the attention of the audience. They intrigue the student. They generate questions. Sometimes it's to model the scientific method. Or perhaps the better way to look at it is to train students in the scientific method. It's the method, after all, that leads to new ideas, new inventions, new patents, new ways of looking at our world. Scientific method is ask a question, form a hypothesis, figure out what you think will happen, test your hypothesis, see what really happens, collect data, form a conclusion, and then ask again. Sometimes experiments are done just for fun. If you keep some of these reasons in mind, instead of eliminating or ignoring experiments, you might decide to utilize solution number 2. Loosen up. Realize that you can do experiments with an investigative, questioning attitude just for fun. Doing science experiments doesn't necessarily have to fit neatly into a course of study. They can be done just to question, just to think, just to generate interest. There are lots of good resources for simple experiments that utilize household items. Janice Van Cleve's Spectacular Science Projects is one example. Real Science for Kids has a new series along these lines called 21 Super Simple Experiments. What if an investigation or lab doesn't do what you think it should? Has it failed? Are you like me and afraid of such failures? The truth is that even a failed experiment can provide lots of good information and serve as a catalyst for other investigations. Dr. Keller, author of Real Science for Kids, offers this perspective. There are no failed experiments, only unexpected outcomes. Do you worry about how to answer all the questions? Are you concerned that a question may come up and you won't know the answer? If being uncertain of your information and uncomfortable with not knowing the answers is a major reason for your being experimentally challenged, maybe you'll be more comfortable with solution number 3. Do whatever you need to do to manage your experiments. First of all, you can use homeschool-friendly courses that are well laid out, given complete instructions for the activities and experiments, and use easy-to-obtain household items. Courses like Apologia, Gravitas Real Science for Kids, Science Odyssey, God's Design for Science, all fit into this category. Secondly, complete equipment and supply kits are available for some courses, like the Reason for Science grade-specific courses, as well as the Apologia and Science Shepherd courses. Lastly, you can use software, science kits, and models. Kits sometimes give kids the confidence to try something they wouldn't try on their own. We have Young Scientist Club, Magic School Bus, Science Whiz, Home Science Adventures. But if you just can't muster up any enthusiasm for science labs, then you might want to take solution number 4. Locate and utilize alternative sources of scientific enthusiasm. Your mission, and it's not an impossible one, is to find someone like Donna who's willing to teach a class or to tutor your child. In homeschool co-ops, science is usually taught by a mom who loves science and often is trained in the scientific method. Our very first co-op experience was just 4 families. We did several types of things, including art, but one mom loved to do science experiments. And I quickly realized that this was a way to remove those ooey-gooey messes from my home. Not surprising then that my family was part of a co-op that had various science classes and ultimately at the high school level provided labs for the Apologia courses. Be warned though, you will probably need to be prepared to make a co-op contribution in some other area. Enrichment classes are similar to co-ops, but they usually have an enrollment fee rather than a work contribution. These classes tend to be taught by an enthusiastic and trained someone who's compensated. This was the approach my friend took towards high school sciences. Ultimately, your student can take community college courses, and those will provide labs. Be on the lookout for other local resources. Check local museums and nature centers for classes. Find people in your community who have special interests or hobbies. Our pastor's wife, who had been trained as a lab technician, taught my oldest daughter her biology labs. She even had her own microscope. One gentleman has a high-powered telescope and lets students and adults come to his home for viewings. He's very knowledgeable, and he has the students step out a scale model of the solar system before it gets dark. After dark, he points out constellations, solar systems, planets, and moons. The adults enjoy this as much as the students. Another gentleman has a hobby of building model airplanes. He's developed a workshop to use with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, church groups, and homeschool groups. One of the things he does is help the kids build the perfect paper airplane. There are many science-related places within driving distance of most of our homes. Keep a folder of possible ideas for field trips. That way you have the information when you get ready for a trip. Pick up flyers from different locations, get a visitor's guide for your area or the area you plan to visit. Check with your friends to see where they like to go. Many times you'll know if it's somewhere you want to go by getting first-hand information from someone who's been there. We've done quite a bit of cord unsnarling, don't you think? We've looked at state laws and requirements. We've talked about how to develop an investigative, science-sensitive environment in our homes. And we've considered the different options for overcoming our fear of or distaste for science labs.